Alright, so Zendikar Rising has finally hit Arena, and we're going to jump right into a sealed event. So sealed is sort of like draft, except you don't pass packs around, you just open up 6 packs, and whatever you open, you, okay, I guess we got a basic land too, but outside of the basic lands, whatever we open, we get to, make a deck out of. So let's see what our 6 rares are. Okay, well, we did pretty good. Holy cow, we got 3 mythics here. We got Scourge of the Skyclaves, which is a 2-mana creature with star power and toughness. Basically, you take the player with the highest amount of life, and you say, okay, whatever 20 minus that is, that's his power and toughness. So the best case scenario, let's say both you and your opponent are at 1 life. Well, Scourge of the Skyclaves is going to be a 2-mana 19/19, you know. Maybe more realistically, you know, both of you are at like 14 life or something, and he'll be a 6/6 for 2, which is still pretty good. But the downside is if you go up against like a life gain deck or something, somebody who can gain upwards of 20 life, then this thing actually has negative power and toughness. So that's something to keep in mind. And it also has a kicker where you can pay 7 for it, which is going to be, you're pretty much never going to use that. But, you know, if you flood out, it's something you can do. You're going to pay 7 for it, and when you cast it, both players are going to lose half their life. So basically kind of guarantees that it's not going to just die when it comes out. Besides that, we got another mythic, Lithiform Engine, which is kind of a weird one. So it basically copies anything, right? It's a 4-mana artifact. You can pay 2 and tap it to copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You can pay 3 and tap it to copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. And you can tap 4 and tap it to copy target permanent spell you control. That spell part's actually important. It has to actually be on the stack. So you can't just copy permanents you control, but you have to actually like add 4 plus a permanent to get 2 of that permanent, essentially. I don't actually think this is that good in Limited, but I don't know, maybe we can make it work depending on what the rest of our pool is. And then our last mythic is Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, and I think this one's actually really good. So Ashaya is a 5-mana star, so another star like Scourge of the Skyclaves. And Ashaya's power and toughness are both equal to the number of lands we control, and non-token creatures we control are forests, which makes them lands, in addition to their other types. So that means 1, they can tap for mana, they can tap for green mana like any other forest, but 2, that counts as land. So really Ashaya is like all your non-token creatures plus all your lands as its power and toughness. That can be pretty dang big. So between these two, we kind of have 2 creatures that can be very, very, very big for their mana costs. Besides that, we have Kargan Intimidator, which is just a good 2-drop, basically makes itself unblockable, kind of, sort of, and it does a few other things. Hagra Mauling, which is a removal spell that can also be a land, very powerful effect. So makes me want to look into green-black, because these 3 cards are all, I think, relatively good. Scourge is maybe a little memey, maybe not actually objectively good, but still kind of interesting. But these 2, I think, are actually very, very good, Ashaya and Hagra Mauling. And then Bright Climb Pathway, this is a black-white dual land, so we can either choose for it to come into play untapped as a white source or untapped as a black source. But then once we choose that, there's no flipping it over. It's just stuck as that. So it's kind of, you know, it is fixing, but it's not actually like a dual land where you're going to have access to both black and white from it. You're going to have one or the other, so kind of limited. But yeah, these 3 are the ones that stick out. Lithiform Engine is interesting for sure, but we'll see if we can make some sort of green-black deck work out. Let's check out what we got in our packs. That is the thing about sealed. You can't really like pick and choose, like, oh, I got this cool black mythic and this cool green mythic, I'm gonna play black-green. Well, if you just didn't open much black or green, you can't. you can't do it. You know, if you just don't have enough cards in those colors, you're just out of luck. So we're gonna take a look through all of our cards, because the set is pretty new, and frankly, I don't know that much about the set yet. So we're just gonna kind of take a quick look at each one and see if it pulls us towards that color or not. So first off, we got Bright Climb Pathway. Already talked about that. Just a black-white duel. Maybe we'll let us splash a 3rd color potentially. Like if we do go into green-black, maybe we can splash white off of this. We also have Practice Tactics, so target attacking or blocking creature takes damage equal to the number of creatures in our party. That seems pretty bad. Resolute Strike. Okay, that's a pretty good... As far as combat tricks go, that is pretty nuts. So +2/+2 at instant speed, and also if it's a warrior, you can attach an equipment to it. So that's, if we get some good equipment, that could definitely be good. I mean, 1 mana instant speed +2/+2 is, I mean, it's not really, you don't want to be running that, but it's not like a bad pump effect. So to have that staple onto a potentially really powerful instant speed equip is pretty good. Seagate Banneret, so yeah, just a 1 mana 1/2 that can pump your team. That doesn't seem too bad. Caveat Takedown. So this is another one of the kind of flip spell / land. So you can either play it as a land that comes into play tapped and taps for white, or you can play it as a spell half, which is 2 mana, deal damage equal to the number of creatures you control, the target creature or planeswalker. Seems pretty good. I think almost any effect that can be a land, if it's playable at all, I think is going to be a really good card, and this seems decent to me. Like, it's not an effect you would really want to be running without the land half, because you will be sometimes in a position where, like, you just don't have enough to deal with a big creature, but situationally this is going to be really good, and in those situations where it's not, well, it can just be your land drop. So allied assault, target creature, or up to 2 target creatures, each gets +X/+X, reduces the number of creatures in your party. So party is a mechanic where you want to put together a team of a warrior, a cleric, a rogue, and a wizard. I think these effects that just give you, like, increasing benefits for having more members in your party are a lot more playable than the ones where you actually want to assemble a whole party. I think having, like, 2 or 3 members of your party is, you know, not hard. 3 is probably a little bit, you know, things are already going pretty well for you, but 2 I think is pretty realistic. So would we be happy with this effect for 3 mana instant speed, 2 creatures get +2/+2? I don't think so. That's not that great of an effect. Angel Heart Protector, 3 mana, 3/2 cleric. When it enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains indestructible. Okay, that's just a decent 3-drop, and it is a cleric to kind of bolster our party. Canyon Jabora, or Jerboa. Canyon Jerboa, amazing art. Look at that little guy. But he's a 3 mana mouse, and landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. That's actually pretty good. If you have, like, a go wide strategy, because this includes himself too. So when you drop a land into play, he's going to be a 2/3 for 3, which is not good, but it's not bad stats either. And if you can kind of go wide with a bunch of weenies and do this to get in for, like, 5 extra damage, that's pretty good. And so landfall is the other mechanic that's out of the set, which is just when a land enters the battlefield, something happens. So Core Celebrant, 3 mana, 1/4 cleric. When it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. I think we're gonna want some kind of life gain payoff to actually want to be running this card. 3 mana, 1/4 is a pretty bad body. Although, you know, if we did have access to a sideboard, which we don't, this is a best of 1 format that we're playing right now, but bringing it in against an aggressive deck seems fine. But yeah, just as a main deck creature, I think we either want to be paid off for having a cleric or paid off for gaining life. Emiria Captain, when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature in your party. Interesting. So it itself is a warrior, so if we have nothing else on the battlefield, it's going to be a 4 mana 2/2 flying vigilance, which is not great, but it's not the worst body in the world either. I mean, flying plus vigilance is a pretty good. It means you can pressure your opponent while also holding back. And again, I think having 2 members in your party isn't that unlikely. And if you get up to, I mean, a 4 mana 3/3 flying vigilance is actually pretty decent. So I think Emiria Captain is actually pretty good. Kabira Outrider? I don't know. Something Outrider is a 4 mana 3/3 human warrior. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 for each creature in your party. So kind of a reversed version of this, where another target creature is probably going to be what you give +1/+1. Because, I mean, if you have no other creatures and this comes into play, this is really bad, right? Because it's going to be a 4 mana 3/3 that pumps itself, but it doesn't have haste, right? So that's not going to. It's just going to be a 4 mana 3/3, which is a hill giant and is traditionally not really good enough to want to put in your deck. So this, I think, is a lot worse than, like, the Emiria Captain, but I mean, not the most stone cold unplayable card either. Smite the Monstrous. This is a reprint. It's been in a lot of sets, and I mean, typically you run like one of them in your deck, but these effects always feel pretty bad, especially at 4 mana. That is a lot to ask for something this situational, and at 4 mana, you're not even likely to get that much of a mana benefit. You might just be killing a 4-drop or maybe a 5-drop, in which case you're only netting 1 mana. And it's just, I don't know, it's really bad when you get stuck with one of these in your hand and your opponent's just, like, beating you down with a bunch of, like, 3/1s, and you're stuck with Smite the Monstrous in your hand. Never really want to be playing these effects, but sometimes you have to if you just don't have any other removal. Okay, moving on to blue, we have Cleric of the Chill Depths, which is a 2 mana 1/3. Whenever it blocks a creature, that creature does not tap. Okay. That actually seems decent enough. A 1/3 cleric, especially if you have use for the type cleric, you know, it is a good defensive body, and it does shut down a big threat for at least a couple turns. So I actually kind of like Cleric of the Chill Depths. Not like amazing, but definitely playable, I think. Deliberate, 2 mana, scry 2, then draw a card. Okay, so this is an instant speed Preordain, and Preordain has traditionally been too powerful to see standard play. Like, it's something they will not reprint because it's such a powerful effect. So I wonder if, you know, Preordain is a sorcery with this effect, and it's 1 mana. Deliberate, so this is 1 additional mana, it's 2 mana, but it's at instant speed, so interesting. I think I'd at least try 1 as a test if we do end up in blue. Then we have Skyclave Squid, which is a 2 mana 3/2, so good stats, but it has Defender, and whenever a land enters the battlefield, it can attack as though it didn't have a defender, so I think where this probably shines is some kind of flyer deck where the 3/2 defender body is good. I mean, just you know, your big payoff for hitting its landfall ability being that it can attack isn't that much of a payoff. So I think you probably want to be getting value out of that body. But a 2 mana 3/2 on defense is going to trade for, you know, some decent stuff. Sometimes it can trade up for like a 3-drop. So I don't think it's terrible, but you want to have something, you know, you want to have either like a defensive deck or some kind of flyers deck, I think. Cunning Geyser Mage, so here is our other mechanic of the set, Kicker. So it's a 3 mana 3/2, but you can pay an additional 2 and a blue as its kicker. And it has the effect when it enters the battlefield if it was kicked, so if you paid that extra cost, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. So that's kind of bad. So it's a 3 mana, it's basically a mana war, so there's cards like this, 3 mana creatures that interplay and bounce something back to your opponent's hand, and mana wars are traditionally very good and limited. But I think 6 mana mana war, I don't know about that. It does have 2 toughness, which means it's probably going to trade down a lot of the time, so not very high on Geyser Mage. And we have Field Research, so this is a 3 mana sorcery that says draw 2 cards, so that's pretty good. That's Divination. That's an effect that is not like amazing in limited, but is definitely playable in limited. And then you have a kicker, so you can pay an additional 3 mana, and if you do, you draw 3 cards instead of 2. So either a 3 mana draw 2 or a 6 mana draw 3. So obviously 6 mana draw 3 is not good, but I mean, it's basically, do you have the extra mana anyway? Have you flooded out? Well, why not pump that extra mana and get an extra card draw on it, right? If the front half is playable on its own and you have that as an additional benefit, then that's a lot better. I think I like Field Research a lot better than Cunning Geyser Mage for that reason. I'm just not happy with Cunning Geyser Mage on its front half. A 3 mana 3/2 that does nothing feels pretty bad. But Field Research, I'm okay with this on its front half. 3 mana draw 2 cards is playable by itself, and then having that additional upside of, hey, if you got extra mana, you get to draw an extra card, seems pretty good. Seafloor Stalker, 3 mana 2/3 Rogue. You can pay 5, and it gets +1/+0 until the end of the turn and can't be blocked. It costs 1 less to activate this ability for each creature in your party. Okay, so actually, even with just him, because he's a rogue, it's actually just 4 mana to make him unblockable, and then every additional creature is going to be lowering that by 1. If you have a full party, it's going to be 1 mana to make him unblockable, and you can activate the ability multiple times too to continually bump his power up. You know, it's not, even though you only make him unblockable once, you can still just keep paying the blue mana over and over and over again to make him, like, you know, whatever, a 5/3 that's unblockable. So probably actually pretty good. A decent finisher probably in a party-based deck. I actually kind of like Seafloor Stalker. And then Wind Rider Wizard. Oh my god, that's a tongue twister. Wind Rider Wizard. 3 mana 2/2 flyer. When you cast an instant, a sorcery, or a wizard spell, you get to draw a card and discard a card. Good. Yep. 3 mana 2/2 flyer. Card I would already play. And then you get benefits for playing wizards and instants and sorceries. So that's kind of the interesting thing about the tribal element of this set. You have cards like Seafloor Stalker, which is kind of a tribal card, except your tribe is like party, right? You don't just want a bunch of rogues. You want a rogue, a warrior, a cleric, and a wizard, right? To fill up your party, where there's also just straight up like wizard tribal and rogue tribal and cleric tribal and warrior tribal stuff too. So you can just focus in on like one of those classes, and this is an example of that. If you know any additional wizards are going to be proccing this guy and letting you loot. But yeah, this card actually seems really good actually. A 3 mana 2/2 flyer is already definitely playable and limited, and this is going to be drawing you extra cards too. So yeah, we got 2 of them, so that's a pretty good draw towards blue, I think. So I think this has been our biggest pull towards blue thus far. Is these couple of Wind Rider Wizards seem pretty good. Cascade Seer. When it enters the battlefield, scry X or X number of creatures in your party, and it's a 4 mana 3/3. That's okay. So 4 mana 3/3 scries when it enters the battlefield isn't an unplayable card. Isn't very strong, but isn't unplayable. And then if you get up to like scry 3 or 4, that's very good. So Expedition Diviner, 4 mana 3/2 flyer. Okay, already good, okay-ish stats, and as long as you control another wizard, it has when this creature dies, draw a card. So interesting. Yeah, so there is a pretty cool, both these cards I think are pretty decent. Wind Rider's way better than Diviner, but Diviner's not bad either in a wizard-based deck. Merfolk Falconer. So this is a 5 mana 4/4 flyer. Whenever you cast a kick spell, scry 2. So, okay. Again, just good stats. 5 mana 4/4 flyer is a really decent finisher and limited. Gonna dodge a good amount of removal just by having a big butt. 4 toughness rather than 3 toughness is a big deal, and gonna be hard to trade within the air unless your opponent also has a big guy like this. So I think a pretty good finisher all around, and I think the kick spell scry 2 thing is just kind of gravy. I think really you just want to be playing this as a 5 mana 4/4 flyer, and if you ever get any value off that second ability, then goody for you, but I don't think that should be the goal. Skyclave Plunder, 5 mana sorcery. Look at the top X cards in your library, where X is 3 plus the number of creatures in your party. Put 3 of those cards into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So this is either, I actually kind of like this card. So it's a 5 mana draw 3, which is, you know, okay. But if you have additional members in your party, you get to kind of do a dig through timey sort of effect, where you get to look at the top X cards of your deck, potentially top 7 cards of your deck, so literally dig through time, and pick the 3 cards you want instead of just drawing 3. Interesting. I think that's pretty good, actually. So we have some good uncommons in blue, no real, like, big bomby rares to draw us into blue, but I think Windrider Wizard and Skyclave Plunder and Merfolk Falconer, these are all pretty good draws towards blue. Moving on to black, we have 1 mana sorcery called Blood Beckoning. So for 1 mana, we can return a target creature card from our graveyard to our hand, and for 4 mana, if we pay the kicker cost, we get to return 2 creatures from our graveyard to our hand. I actually think this is pretty good. Typically, these 1 mana return a creature from your graveyard to your hand effects aren't worth it, so the front half of this, I would not put that card in my deck. Just 1 black mana return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, because even though there are some times where that'll be good, you know, you play your big bomb, your opponent kills it, and just being able to get your big bomb back for 1 mana and then replay it could win you the game, you know, but there's a lot of times you'll end up with this card in your hand and you just don't have anything in your graveyard, you know, and in that case, it's kind of like a card that reads like draw a card, except you have to already have something in your graveyard to draw, you know, and that's not really worth it for 1 mana. It's just a little bit too conditional. But getting 2 creatures back from your graveyard is a different story. Then you're talking about card advantage. You're not just talking about trading a card in your hand for something in your graveyard. You're talking about getting 2 things back and generating some card advantage, which is kind of the name of the game in Limited a lot of the times. If you're not under too much pressure, getting 2 things back for 1 card can be a pretty big swing. That said, 4 mana for that effect is also not something I would really put in my deck. 4 mana, get 2 things back. But I think this is an instance where the combination of those 2 effects makes this thing much better than just the sum of its parts. I think those conditional situations where you will just want to pay 1 black mana, get your big bomb back, plus those situations where paying 4 mana to get 2 creatures back to really put you ahead on card advantage, I think both of those are conditional, but having both of those options on 1 card makes the card worth playing. So all that aside, I think it's good. At least okay. Besides that, we have a 2 mana 1/1 Flying Lifelinker. Okay, you can pay an additional 4, so then it'll be a 6 mana spell. And if you do, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So a 6 mana 3/3 Flying Lifelink or a 2 mana 1/1 Flying Lifelink. Not a fan of this card. I mean, Lifelink is a pretty powerful ability in Limited in particular, where it kind of can buy you a bunch of time. It can maybe put yourself in a position where your opponent just can't race against it. You know, if your opponent doesn't have enough removal left to deal with it, it can just win you the game. But 2 mana 1/1, a 1/1 Flying Lifelinker is just too low impact, and you have to get this up to 6 mana, and then at 6 mana there's just kind of better things to do than 3 mana Lifelinkers, I think. So I think pretty bad card, actually. Lithiform Blight, so 2 mana enchantment aura that enchants a land. When Lithiform Blight enters the battlefield, draw a card. Okay, so it replaces itself, so there's kind of a floor on how bad this can actually be. Enchanted land loses all types and abilities and has tap to add colorless, and tap, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color. So it's not very impactful. They do have sort of a get out of jail free ability here, where they can pay 1 life to make 1 mana of any color. So it's never going to really get them unless they're like at extremely low life. So really, this is more of a cycler than anything. It's 2 mana, draw a card, slightly inconvenience your opponent. And maybe, you know, if you just need some filler, it's probably not terrible. Then we have Malakir Blood Priest. So 2 mana 2/1 Vampire Cleric. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures in your party. That actually seems pretty good. I actually kind of like this. So 2 mana 2/1 is a decent enough body. Not great, but decent. And when it enters the battlefield, it's going to at least drain your opponent for 1, and if you potentially drain your opponent for 2 or 3, or, you know, in the absolute best case 4, that's really powerful. 2 mana 2/1 enters the battlefield, drains 2 life off of your opponent, I think is already playable. And even pretty decently good. So I think this is actually a pretty good card. Yeah, then we have our Scourge the Skyclaves. We already talked about him. So I don't know. I feel like probably in actuality this card isn't very good. But it is very interesting. It makes me want to play it, so maybe we give it a shot. I mean, that's kind of what pre-release is for, right? Just trying out these cards. I think looking at the card, I can imagine a lot of situations where it's not that great. But, you know, maybe we experiment. If we do end up in black, I'm definitely going to slot it to our deck. Subtle Strike, so this is an instant. Choose one or both. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, and put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Well, as combat tricks go, 2 mana to permanently buff your creature and potentially blow your opponent out during a combat step, you know, them blocking and you using this to make their creature shrink down 1 and your creature permanently go up. It's actually, I mean, it's not, I don't know, I think it's runnable at least. I don't know if we want to run all 3 of them that we have here, but maybe like 1, because you can just sort of blow your opponent out in the right circumstance. But I think a big reason why this is playable is the +1/+1 counter. If this was like, say, -1/-1 to opponent's creature and +2/+2 to our creature, I think that would actually be worse for 2 mana. But having this permanent sort of stick around value of a +1/+1 counter actually seems pretty decent. Black Bloom Rogue, so this is a flip land creature, so it can either be a 3 mana 2/3 rogue with menace, and it gets +3/+0 as long as opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. Wow, this is actually really good. That's just a decently runnable creature. 3 mana 2/3 menace that can become a 3 mana 5/3 with menace in the late game, and it can be a land as well. Like, that's just, I'm actually, yeah, that card seems great. Wow. A lot of these are just like really overcosted, right? Because you're getting the option to play them as a land, so they don't have to be that good of a creature to be runnable. But this, I think, is actually a pretty decent body attached to this land. So I think, yeah, big reason to be in black there as well. Demon's Disciple, when it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature. These effects are, you know, if you can benefit off the death, they're okay. And especially if you have a decent amount of removal spells where you can kind of kill your opponent's other creatures and not give them much choice what to sacrifice with, they're a little bit better. And, I mean, if you know this effect is coming, you know, that's sort of the other way you can break the synergy. You can trade in combat with your opponent, and they can think, okay, well, things have sort of settled down. I still have my big bomb. They just traded a bunch of their creatures. But then you can Demon's Disciple them to snipe their stuff. But if there is some sort of sacrifice synergy we can find, it gets a lot better. Gul'Dra's MacLeod. Okay, look at that crocodile. He looks like he's running, like on 2 legs. I like the art. So 3 mana 2/3 crocodile. When Gul'Dra's MacLeod dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature control. Okay, decent enough. It dies and gives us some value when it does. So that would be something like we sacrifice it to our Demon's Disciple and get a +1/+1 counter. You know, that's not like great, but it's not bad either. Hagra Constrictor enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So a 3 mana 2/2, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has menace. We haven't seen that many +1/+1 counter effects. We've got like Subtle Strike. We technically have 3 of them, but we're not running three Subtle Strikes. We have like Subtle Strike in MacLeod, and I guess, you know, Hagra Constrictor itself is a 3 mana 2/2 menace because it gives itself menace, so that's something. 3 mana, oh, Vanquish the Weak. This is another reprint card, and this one's different. So power 3 or less is a lot different than power 4 or more that we saw in white. Smite the Monstrous. It's a lot different than holding onto something while you're getting beaten down by little dorks. Like this is like the bomb answer, but nothing else. And this is like the keep me alive answer while I wait out for my bombs, you know, while I use my real removal on those bombs. So I feel like this is a lot more playable because it can actually keep you alive against some little dorks. And then we've already talked about this, Hagra Mauling, just a fantastic card. Probably the strongest card that we pulled, I think. Even though it doesn't look like that much, so it's a 4 mana removal spell. Our opponent's going to control basic lands because we're unlimited, so it's just 4 mana, kill a creature, which is overcosted, but would still be runnable in limited. But it can enter as a land. That is so huge, and be our removal spell, which, you know, 9 times out of 10 we're going to want to run this as a removal spell, but having that ability to be like, we just need to hit our land drop, you know, to stay in this game, and being able to turn our removal spell into a land drop, it's just so huge. It's ridiculous. Highborn Vampire, 4 mana 4/3 warrior, not great. Scion of the Swarm, 5 mana 3/3 flyer. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Scion of the Swarm. Okay, so if we could find some lifelink, you know, it's a reason to run a card like Ghastly Gloomhunter, which isn't that good on its own. And also it gives us some additional benefit off this Malakir Blood Priest, and also a card like Core Celebrant. You know, there's a black-white life gain sub-theme in this set, I suppose. So that would be pretty cool. Okay, moving on to red. We've got a 1-mana 1/1 that can pay 2, tap itself, and target creature power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Not very good. The actual ability itself to make a 2-power or lower creature unblockable is decent enough, but paying 2 mana for that is not. Spikefield Hazard, very good card. You can either play it as a 1-mana instant to deal 1 damage to something, or it can be a land. So this is another effect that you would never, ever in a million years actually run in your deck as a card. But when it has the ability to also be a land, it makes it so much better. Because situationally, this effect is really good. You know, if they have a 1 toughness creature, you can pick it off. Or if in combat, you know, if you just need 1 more point of damage for your creature to trade with their big bomb, you can do it. Or even if, you know, your opponent gets down to 1 life, you can throw this damage at their face, you know. It can be that extra little tiny point of burn just to get you across the line. So all in all, very good attached to a land. Just completely erases all the situationalness of the card, because it can be your land drop. Cleansing Wildfire, this is a card I'm kind of interested in, like, constructed. Something like Aven Mind Sensor to make your opponent unable to search. I'd be interested to try that out in like Historic, but it's just okay. It basically cycles itself. You can destroy your opponent's land and they have to go grab another one, so you can blow up their dual land or whatever. But yeah, and I guess it's in a format where people are going to have a lot more tap lands than usual, because everybody's going to be running like Hagra Maulings and Spikefield Hazards. I think it's probably better. Blowing up your opponent's land, even if it does get replaced, I think is more impactful when everybody's playing tap land. So I guess it's probably not bad. Probably, you know, and similar to Lithiform Blight, probably at least runnable in this format. Grotag Bugcatcher, my god, that art. Art aside, a 2-mana 1/2 with Trample, okay, kind of weird. And whenever it attacks, it gets +1/+0 for each creature in your party. So it's going to be a 2-mana 2/2 with Trample by itself. And then it goes up to, yeah, I think this is an okay card. Getting up to, you know, 2 members of your party, it's going to be a 3/2 with Trample. It does have a limit, you know, it's not pumping its toughness, so it's not going to be like crazy good ever, because I can always just trade it with something with 2 power, but it's probably fine. Speaking of warriors, Kargan Intimidator, this is another rare we had. Very good aggressive threat, so if we do end up in red, it's very strong. Royal Eruption, this is another really good card. We got one of them. I'm actually familiar with this card because also it has constructed implications. So 2-mana sorcery, deal 3 damage to any target. So already all-star and limited. You're going to play this every single time. Very, 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 very good in limited. 2-mana sorcery, deal 3 damage, and constructed typically wouldn't make it, but it also has a kicker where you can pay 5 more mana, so 7 mana in all, and deal 5 damage to any target instead, which, again, is just massively overcosted when you just look at it in a vacuum. 7 mana, deal 5 damage to something. Not a card you want to run, but having that as sort of an additional upside on a card that's already pretty good. 2 mana, deal 3 damage to something at sorcery speed. Gotta be the best red common. I would be very surprised. Again, I'm not super familiar with the set, so there might be something that I haven't seen yet, but this is going to be hard to beat for best red common, I think. Tormenting Voice, always, if there's a spells deck, it's usually pretty good in that, but otherwise, probably not worth running. Expedition Champion, 3-mana 2/3 human warrior. It gets +2/+0 as long as you control another warrior. It's okay. I think, you know, if you can get it turned on, it goes from, you know, below the bar to above the bar, but not really that much above the bar, right? So, but it does, unlike the other card we were talking about over here, this bug catcher that only pumps itself when it attacks, it does always become a 4/3 once you have another warrior on the battlefield. So it does play an okay defensive role too if you need to hold it back. Causal's Fury, this is another flip land, so it can either be Causal's Cliffs, which is just a tap land that taps for red, or for 3 mana, it's a Fling. So you sacrifice a creature and you deal damage equal to that creature's power to any target. I think very good. Similar to Spikefield Hazard, just very, very powerful to have this very situational effect attached to a land. To get those additional points of burn across the line, or to fling that damage at your opponent's big bomb, to even if you have to 2-for-1 yourself, you know, just to get that off the battlefield and not let it win the game for them. Yeah, I think fantastic card. Tuk Tuk Rebel Fort, okay. 3 mana, 0/3 with Defender and Reach, and creatures you control have haste. Okay, well, it might just be for, like, Commander. I think this is actually pretty bad. It's an interesting card, but I think it's actually pretty bad because the fact that it bestows haste on everything means you want it in an aggressive deck, but if you're in an aggressive deck, you don't want a 3 mana 0/3 with Defender and Reach. That's like the last card you would ever want in an aggressive deck, so I think actually pretty god-awful. Synchronized Spellcraft, so 5 mana, deals 4 damage to a creature, and then X damage to that creature's controller, where X is the number of creatures in your party. 5 mana, deal 4 damage at instant speed is like almost not playable in limited, I think. It's typically you see these effects at 5 mana, deal 5 damage, and even then they're kind of like, ugh, it's kind of gross. But that additional upside of potentially hitting your opponent for, 1, 2, 3 damage is also pretty nice. And I mean, it is a removal spell if you need one, so red is looking not bad. We did see some pretty good draws towards red. And then in green we have Gnarled Colony, so a 2 mana 2/2, which is just fine in limited. A 2 mana 2/2 can keep you alive against an aggressive deck and can keep pressure on a controlling deck, so it kind of does what you need it to do. Not stellar, but not bad either. And then it has a kicker of 2 and a green, and if it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. Interesting. So more +1/+1 counter payoffs, and also so basically this can be a 5 mana 4/4 or a 2 mana 2/2, and it also, similar to Hybrid Constrictor, we can like stack up these abilities to give all our creature menace and trample, which is kind of interesting. Kazandu Nectarpot, which is a 2 mana 1/3 insect with landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Not great. Might of Marasa, so 2 mana instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. If it was kicked, it gets +5/+5. So I'm not super high on this as a combat trick. 1 mana +3/+3 is good, and at 2 mana I think it's actually bad. This does have the additional upside of being potentially a 5 mana +5/+5. I don't think the flexibility of having those two effects, unlike the black card we talked about before, where I wouldn't play either of these effects on their own, but the flexibility makes me like it. I don't think it quite does it here. I think either time you're going to be pretty unhappy with this effect, but I could be wrong. I mean, that flexibility does add some value. Rabid Bite. This is a good card, another reprint. So 2 mana sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. One-sided fight. So just green gets everything, even creature removal these days. So good card. 3 mana Broken Wings. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. No. No, I don't think so. I mean, I guess as far as particular answers go, I mean, this probably has at least one target in every deck, right? And anybody's given sealed deck, they probably have at least one artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying, right? So I don't know though. 3 mana for that effect. I don't think I'm going to be running that if I can get away with not running it. Marasa Brute, 3 mana 3/3 Troll Warrior. Okay, and we got 3 of them. I mean, 3 mana 3/3s get the job done in limited. I mean, that's just fine stats. Not exciting, but good enough. And it is a warrior if we care about party at all. Taunting Arbor Mage, so 3 mana 2/3. We can pay an additional 3 when we play it. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, all creatures able to block target creatures this turn do so. I think this is actually pretty decent. This is one where you want to get the back half off. This isn't one where you're like, I'm happy with either side of it. A 3 mana 2/3, especially when you're in green, when you can just get access to better creatures, it's just not that great. But a 6 mana 2/3 that when it comes to play, everything has to block one of your creatures, that can very easily win you the game. So you can target one of your random creatures, a little 1/1 or whatever, and all your opponent's creatures have to block that 1/1. So if you alpha strike in, attack with everything, all your 3/3s and all your other big boys, all their creatures have to block that 1/1. So it's basically making all of your creatures unblockable except for one this turn. It can be a pretty good finisher. So I think this is actually a good card, but on the condition that you look at it as a 6 mana card. If you just need a 3 mana play, it can be a 2/3, but you're going to be really unhappy if you have to do that, I think. Territorial Scythe Cat, so 2 mana or 3 mana 2/1, so not good stats, but it's got trample, and whenever a land enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Territorial Scythe Cat. Obviously not that good on its front, but how many counters do you have to put on it before you're happy with what you paid for Territorial Scythe Cat? I think the answer is probably 2. 3/2 for 3 is pretty bad because you had to do some work to get there, even though it's just playing lands. That means you can't just go turn 3, play my creature, go. It's going to be bad. So it's really going to be more of like a turn 4 play. Turn 4, play my Scythe Cat, play a land, it becomes a 3/2, and even then that's not that good. So I think it's actually not that great. But it does have +1/+1 counters, which go well with some of our synergies if we do go into green-black, and we have 3 of them. Jiraga Visionary, 4 mana, 3/2, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Good. This is a good card, yeah. Just good value. 4 mana, a 3/2 body is going to do some work on the board. It can contribute to a block to take a big creature off the board pretty well, or it can, just trade for like a 3-drop or a 4-drop, and when you're getting that value out of a card that just replaces itself, it's pretty good. And we got 2 of those, so that's pretty nice. Then there's a Shaya. We talked about a Shaya. Very good card. Turn Timber Ascetic. 5 mana, 5/4 Giant Cleric. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Okay. 5 mana, 5/4 isn't bad stats. It's not good stats, but it is a pretty chunky body. And 5 mana isn't that hard to get to. If this was 6 mana, it'd be a different story. But 5 mana and gaining you some life to kind of restabilize, you know, due to its slowness is pretty good, I think, actually. If we end up going into some sort of party deck, we can look into running that. Utility Knife, so this is an equipment. When it enters the battlefield, we attach it to a creature, gets +1/+1, and it has an equip effect of 3. I think not really good. I mean, sometimes these effects are good. There's been formats where, I think it's called Leonin Scimitar is what it's called, this traditional effect, where it's a 1-mana equipment that costs 1 to equip, and it gives +1/+1, and there's been formats where that's actually good, where that additional toughness and power, it just sort of works out in a way, you know, if there's a bunch, if it's like a -1/-1 counter format or something, where that additional toughness can actually matter a lot, where your creatures don't just get sniped off by random effects or whatever. But this doesn't seem like that kind of format to me. I expect this format is going to be pretty slow because of all the tapped lands, you know, the big mythic lands that have these big, really expensive effects that you have to build up towards. I expect this format will be decently slow. So I would expect Utility Knife to not quite get there. Relic Axe, 2 mana of any color. When it enters the battlefield attached to a creature you control, it gets +1/+1, and if it's Warrior, it gets +2/+1 instead. Okay, I'm more interested in this. If we can get a decent amount of Warriors, that's an actually +2/+1 is a different story. Then you're trading up potentially a couple of mana every time you trade in combat, and it really puts the pressure on your opponent. And the fact that it's a 2 mana to equip instead of 3 mana to equip also means it's not quite as devastating if they kill your creature. So yeah, having that upside of potentially really buffing your warriors is, I think, enough to make me want to play Relic Axe. Okay, Stonework Pack B, so this can be any type. This can be a cleric, a rogue, a warrior, or a wizard. And it's just a 2 mana that can filter mana. So if you just, this is kind of like the filler card. If you need something to fill out your party deck, you just don't have enough rogues or whatever, you can throw one of these in there. So if we're on a party strategy, it might be runnable, but I think otherwise you don't want to run it. Relic Golem, 3 mana, 6/6. Huh? Okay, 3 mana, 6/6. But it can't attack or block. Okay, that makes more sense. Unless an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, pay 2 mana, target player mills 2 cards. Kind of bad, I think. You know, I think if this was even just like tap to mill 1 card instead of pay 2 mana, tap to mill 2 cards, I think it would be potentially playable. But having to invest all that mana in this makes it not actually a 3 mana 6/6, right? It's more like a, I don't know, like a 10 mana 6/6 or something, even though you do get to break up that mana over multiple turns. And then of course your opponent also naturally gets 8 cards in their graveyard. You don't have to mill them. So in the late game, this is just going to be a potentially 3 mana 6/6, but 8 cards in their graveyard isn't the smallest amount. Then Lithiform Engine, which I think probably is not good, but I think I'm going to run it anyway, no matter what colors I'm in, just because, I mean, again, this is pre-release. The whole point is to test things out. So based on our rares and based on the kind of draws of the colors I've seen, I think we're going to try black-green, see where that puts us. So maybe we'll run the Nectar Pots if we feel like we need to. Rabid Bite for sure. Run all of these Brutes. Run the Arbor Mage, which is going to be more of a, like a 6-drop. So let's put it up here. Maybe one of the Scythe Cats. If we can get away with not running all 3 of these, that would be nice. And one of the Aesthetics, too, I think is fine. How many warriors does that leave us with? We've got the Troll Warriors, that's a Wizard, and that's a Cleric. We kind of got a party going, actually. If we have some kind of party payoffs in these colors, that'd be pretty nice. I mean, well, we do have the Blood Priest, so potentially we can actually drain our opponent for a good amount with these. I mean, we got a Wizard, we got a Cleric, and we got a Warrior, so it would be a pretty strange adventuring party, you know, an elf, a vampire, a giant, and a troll, but pretty good, I think. Yeah, we want to put this Blood Beckoning in our deck. Definitely our Scourge seems pretty good. 1 Subtle Strike, Blackborn, or Black Bloom Rogue for sure, Demon's Disciple for sure, MacLeod's okay, Hydro Constrictor's okay, Vanquish the Weak will definitely run, Hogger Mauling. How many ways do we actually have to gain life in this deck? 3? We have 3 ways to gain life, so this is actually pretty bad. Maybe we just need a flyer, though, to... I mean, if we do go up against, like, a flyer-based deck that has, like, Merfolk Falconer staring us down. Maybe we need a way to actually trade with those, because we don't have a ton of removal, right? That's the biggest problem I see with this deck, is we're just going to get beaten down by flyers. We have some ways to gain some life back, but as far as we've only got like 2 real removal spells in the form of Vanquish the Weak and Hagra Mauling, which can deal with flyers, but maybe we just need... Do we have anything with reach? Does this guy have reach? No. Maybe we do need a Broken Wings. We'll run a Broken Wings just because I feel like we're really kind of soft to flyers. And even though this thing has freaking wings... Oh, I guess it doesn't have wings. Never mind. I was gonna get mad about this flying insect not being able to fly, but it looks like it's just got a big old fat butt. It doesn't have any wings. So what do we cut here? We need to cut 3 cards. So we have some things that function as lands as well. So let's see how many of those we actually have. We have the Hagra Mauling, we have the Black Bloom Rogue. That's it? Okay, just those 2. I think that's enough to cut 1 land. So probably 1 swamp, and then we need to cut 2 more cards. Maybe the Scythe Cat. Yeah, maybe go down to Gloom Hunter. We'll just accept that we're a bit soft to flyers. We're not super soft. I forgot we had this Rabid Bite, so we actually have 3 removal spells from this Rabid Bite, Hagra Mauling, and Vanquish the Weak. Alright, so this is going to be our deck. We got 3 Mythics. Hey, that means our deck's good, right? Not really, because 2 of our Mythics are Lithiform Engine, which I think is probably just a bad card. Like, I think you probably, strictly speaking from a correct play standpoint, shouldn't run this card, but I'm running it because it seems fun. We've got Scourge of the Skyclaves, which should be pretty interesting. I actually don't know if this is good or not. We'll find out together. And then we got a Shia, which I think is just obviously very good. And maybe a Shia actually makes that Leopard better, because we don't actually have any landfall payoffs in our deck, and a Shia means all of our creatures also count as land drops. Yeah, let's go back up to Territorial Scythe Cat, because we can like get it back in the late game when we have a Shia and start really pumping this thing up. So let's go one of those Scythe Cats and go down maybe just the Marasa Brute. We don't have any way to really benefit off the fact that it's a warrior, and it's just a 3-mana 3/3, which is good, but not great. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with this. So we are on green-black stuff. Green-black cool mythics I wanted to play, and yeah, let's give it a shot. Pretty excited to try this deck out. Here we go, on to Zendikar. Alright, up against Faye is Dead, and yeah, this hand looks fine. So just a heads up, Arena crashed during the last game, and yeah, it counted as a loss. So we're playing this on hard mode. We only get 2 losses before we get booted out, so oh dear god, opponent looks pretty aggressive. How important is it that we get the free equip? I mean, 2 mana to equip isn't the worst. Is that better than... Because next turn we're running out Marasa Brute. I guess we have our next few turns probably lined up anyway, so we'll just run out the Relic Axe now. No free equip, but that's okay. Alright, Hellhound. Yeah, the opponent's on red-white aggro. Luckily, a Marasa Brute should be pretty good against that, hopefully. It can block their Hellhound well, it can block their Bugcatcher well, so... Let's see, do they have a removal spell for our Marasa Brute is the question. Canyon Jabora. Alright, so that'll be pumping their dudes next turn, but this turn it's not so bad. We might just Subtle Strike to kill the Hellhound. If we do that, we're doing nothing else this turn. I think we'll wait till we have 4 mana to try to set that up. This turn we'll just go MacLeod. And yeah, we're actually just gonna play the Rogue as a land. No attacks. I also did change a little bit. The Relic Axe I brought in after thinking about it, and also I brought in the big flying vampire. I figured that was better than... Ooh. Yeah, we're gonna have to kill that Jabora. That Jabora's gonna run away with the game if we can't find removal for it. Sure. Do we just... Yeah, I guess we just... trade with a Bugcatcher? Yeah, that's fine. We can just kill the Hellhound straight up with our MacLeod. Prowling Felidar, what does this do? 3 mana, okay, another landfall. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Ooh, okay, the opponent's got some good stuff. Okay, so we can equip up the MacLeod and also Subtle Strike. I think that's what we do. Yeah, so we'll equip up the MacLeod and no attacks. You know what, we'll do it now because they could have a pump spell. So we're going to go -1 and +1. So -1, +1. make our Mucklord pretty big. Makes it kind of hard for them to attack, even with this Jabora on the battlefield. Next turn we can Jiraga Visionary to start drawing some cards. We really don't want to have to trade this Mucklord before we get another creature on the battlefield. But we might have to. Ooh, that's brutal. Brutal, brutal, brutal. Okay. Yikes. Well, it's going to be an uphill battle from here. Okay, we can play Skycat, Scythecat, I guess, and put the equipment on it. That makes it a 3-2, then a 4-3, which wouldn't trade with this Felidar if they've got a land drop. Could also go Jiraga Visionary and get back the Brute, potentially. I think we go for the two-thing play here. So we're going to go Scythecat, land, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and equip up the Scythecat. And at the very least, that'll hold off the Jerboa, maybe not the Felidar. We need a removal spell for that Felidar. And it's also possible our opponent doesn't have a land. I mean, they are playing an aggressive deck, so 5 lands in a row might be where they stop. If they don't have a 6th land to further pump... Oh my gosh, well, removal spells will do it too. Do they have a land as well? Okay, no land. They get to loot. Ooh, do they loot into a land? They do. Oof, well, opponent's deck is pretty good. They've had removal spells and lands all along the way. Okay, is there any way I can survive here? I can Jiraga Visionary. What is this? I can Jiraga Visionary. If I hit a 2-drop, do I live? If they don't draw a land, I do. I could also Blood Beckoning to get back Marasa Brute, which isn't really better. So yeah, I'll just have to hope we draw a 2-drop. Well, that's a 2-drop. Okay, so I'm going to go Rabid Bite the Felidar. Get that off the battlefield. Do they have a land? If they have a land, I'm dead. That's what it comes down to. Do they draw a land or a removal spell? Okay, we are going to take this trade, absolutely. We can Blood Beckoning next turn. Another Hellhound, okay. Scion of the Swarm. We're still just dead to a land, aren't we? Is there anything we can get back here? Like, if we double Blood Beckoning, that's... We don't have enough mana to cast 2 things. We could get back 1 thing here, but we're still not... We're still only casting 1 creature this turn. I think what we do is Scion of the Swarm. We just gotta hope they miss a land 1 more turn and get back the Jiraga Visionary. Yeah, that's what we got. We just gotta hope they miss a land here. If they hit a land, we're dead. And they hit a land. Alright. Well, yep. We did the best we could, but our opponent got there rough. Okay, so our opponent had a pretty good deck. We almost stabilized, but our opponent just happened to hit the right string of lands plus the removal spell. So, all right, we got to go 7 wins in a row here because it got a freebie off of us. So let's try 7 in a row. Here we go. All right, next game against Spice 3, and we will keep this. We may actually play this Hagra Mauling as a land. Oh my god. Maybe not. Well, we drew a black source. Now I'm pretty happy about keeping it in our hand, but that is an Archpriest of Iona, which is a good party payoff. I know it gets it gets more power for each member of your party, and then if you get a full party, it becomes a real problem. But we're just going to run out the... would it be better to run out the... I guess... I don't know which one of these is better to hold on to for the late game. We could potentially get like a drain off of our opponent for a few life with this Malakir Blood Priest, but probably just the Gnarlid Company Gnarlid Colony as a 4/4 is a little better of a late game thing than holding on to this Blood Priest. But it's still fine as a 2/2. Alright, well, they got the Warriors, but that's about it. Okay, so here... I want to just fight the Archpriest of Aluna. I think I'm just going to go Malakir Blood Priest, because no matter how much power that Archpriest of Iona gets, it can still block. The Blood Priest can still block and trade with it. Unless they have a full party and it starts getting evasion. And they're pretty far away from a full party. They just have 2 warriors. Or 2 clerics, I suppose. And a bird. When it enters the battlefield, it may return a land... Okay, so it's a landfall thing. Ooh, Skycat's not bad. So we're going to play our Scythecat, play land, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, I mean... I guess we attack. If our opponent wants to trade, we're okay with that. Wow, they're just going to trade the Archpriest, huh? I wonder if they have that party reanimation spell that lets you get back a creature plus a party member. Because that was that's a pretty decent threat that just traded away for a 2-1. Well, we should be okay regardless. We can technically play this Scourge now as a 1-1 because both players have lost some life, but I think with the amount of clerics and life, you know, potential... okay. Wow, they're just running this out as a 1-1 flyer for one? That seems pretty bad. Well, we can Haggard Constrictor. Alternatively, we could play Scourge of the Skyclaves and Rabid Bite the Protector. Yeah, I think we're going to just go Constrictor, because this means if they want to block our Scythe Cat, they have to block with both of their creatures. It's going to give our Scythe Cat Menace. Go to combat. I think we attack with both. We need to apply pressure back here, because... okay, they're just going to trade 2 for 1? Wow, okay, they're going to make that trade. We're okay with that. We need to start applying pressure back, because our opponent does have the air game, right? What is this? I thought this was the... oh, it's a kicker spell land. I thought this was the land that you used for casting your party members. Alright, if you kick it, it returns... wow, so they get to make some free mana with that. Interesting. Well, Vanquish the Weak is pretty good. Do we want to instead just play out a Scourge plus a Gnarlid, though? Or a Scourge plus a Rabid Bite? I guess yeah, we're gonna kill the Sproutling. So Scourge as a 3/3, Rabid Bite the Sproutling, and slam in for 4. Keep the pressure on our opponent. Scourge goes up to a 4/4. Scourge is actually looking pretty good here. Hopefully our opponent can't gain any life. Would be nice to draw another black source to turn on our Mauling here. We don't want to play this Mauling as it's a little bit awkward because we do technically have another black source with this Haggard Brute Pit, but if we do that, then we lose access to our Mauling, so we don't actually have another black source. Alright. Is that what they got back? Did they get back the Cleric? Alright, well, kind of weird, but... well, we're still happy with this. This is an instant, right? Yeah, I think we're going to swing in with everything. If our opponent tries to do a combat trick, we can Vanquish the Weak here. And if they don't, we can just play a big old Gnarlid Colony. Wow, okay. Sure, we'll trade that for the bird. Okay. Is that... sure, okay. And play a big Gnarlid Colony with some kicker. And we got a couple removal spells. Again, still need one more black source to turn this Mauling on, but Scourge has been pretty good. 2 mana 4/4. That's nothing to sneeze at. Yeah, and our opponent scoops it up. Alright, so our opponent was on some weird kicker or something. I don't even know. But that's a win. So our draft on hard mode here, starting with a free loss and then an actual loss. We got to get 7 in a row. So there's 1 out of 7. We can do this. Alright, on to game 2. Alright, up against the Mysterious Lad, and yeah, sure, we'll keep this. Got a 2-drop, got a combat trick. Hopefully we can hit another land and start playing these 3-drops. There's the big vampire I brought in over the 3-mana instant that blows up a flyer. Well, there's a flyer, an artifact, or an enchantment. We'll see if that ends up being better or not. People are just playing this thing out as a 1/1. It seems pretty bad as just a 1/1 flyer to me. Well, I guess if you put an equipment on it, it's not so bad. Oh, we can completely blow them out with a Subtle Strike, though. Yeah, I think we're going to do that while they're tapped out. It would be nice to get down one of these 3/3s, but I think while they're tapped out so they can't like save it with a combat trick, we're going to kill their creature and put a +1/+1 counter on our boy. Hit our opponent for 3. Pass turn. That also gives our Gnarlid Trample, which is pretty nice. What does this actually do? Is it just +2/+? Yeah, just +2/+0. Okay, so our opponent's on like red-white warriors. Interesting. Ooh, Skyclave is pretty interesting too. I think we just get in for 3. Play the Marasa Brute. One more land to turn on this Mauling would be really nice. I'm not going to play it as a land. Too good. Wow, opponent's just going to spend their turn equipping it up? Really? Okay, sure. Land, and that does turn on our Hagra Mauler, so we will attack. I wonder if we should have taken that hit. If we took that hit from their warrior, it would like make our Skyclave gigantic. Because currently Skyclave is getting held back by our own life total. Angel Heart Protector, alright. And that's it, sure. I wonder if I just kill it and just keep the pressure on. I think that's probably what we do. So let's just kill it. Yep, let's kill the Protector. Do they have some sort of protection for it? Nope. Okay. Hit him for 6. If we drew a land there, I would have just played Scion instead and traded with their Angel Heart Protector, but I think getting him down to 5 when we have this flyer in our hand, it seems pretty good. Oh, that is not what you want to be casting right now with so much pressure against you. Now they gotta play something just to survive. Cool card, but not what they wanted. Okay, okay. That is a good defensive card. Oh, Ashaya is really good. So we're gonna go to combat, attack with both. They get a free block. And play the... I guess we just play the Scourge because that puts 3 lethal attackers on the board. So even if they suit up this Core Celebrant with their equipment and can have a good block against one of our creatures, we still have 2 lethal creatures. So I guess 1 creature would do it actually because it does gain them some life. Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna suit up the Core Celebrant, which can eat one of our creatures now. Hagra Constrictor. Play Hagra Constrictor, which gives the Gnarled Colony Menace. They have to chump with one of their creatures. Down to 1. And now we've got 2 menacing threats. They're at 1 life, so they're gonna have... Okay, Visual Wizard isn't bad because it lets them loot to potentially find a 3rd creature here. Ooh! Nahiri! Dear God. Alright, they make a 1/1. Gain some life. Are they still dead, though? We do still have these menacing creatures. Okay, they're up to 3. So if we attack... Finally we drew our 5th land, so if we attack with all 3, they can double block this, block here, and go to 1. I guess they technically live and they get to eat our creature if we do that. Yeah, we're going to go after our opponent. Keep the pressure on them, put this flyer in the air, and then even if they do gain life, they're dead to the flyer. Sure. Yeah, we will kill the Fisher Wizard, hit our opponent down to 1, and we get to play Scion of the Swarm. Lethal in the air. What do you got, opponent? You can use Nahiri to dig for a warrior and or equipment, but you can't... That's not going to be enough to survive. They need either a flyer or a removal spell, something. I guess technically if they have an equipment... Okay. About to say, if they had an equipment, I guess they could blow up our Scion, which would be bad. Seagate Colossus isn't going to do it. Doesn't have reach. Kind of looks like it should have reach. Alright. And that's probably going to be game, I imagine. Unless they have something they can do for 1 mana. Ooh. Not this turn, but we will attack with our Scion. And that's game. Alright. Whew. Our opponent had a pretty cool deck. Red-White Warriors, huh? But, yeah, we were able to put enough pressure on the board that they were not able to survive. They did, this Core Celebrant actually was better than I gave it credit for. It gained them probably like 4 or 5 life, and it kept them in a game they were very much behind the 8 ball on for most of it. Although, and I guess realistically, we were at 17 life, so they weren't that close to us. But in any case, on to the next one. Alright, up against He's Not Disco 1, and yeah, we'll keep this. Probably not going to play this rogue as a land, probably just going to... okay, Hagra Constrictor, probably just going to run it out as a creature. It could get us to potentially casting this Gnarled Colony for 5, so maybe it's worth it. Okay, well, Sellsword. Okay, we're definitely just going to run out this Gnarled as a 2/2 then. as a blocker for this sellsword. So just a 3/1 warrior, but gotta be able to trade for that. It's just gonna run away with the game. Let's see, does opponent have a removal spell? Maybe. They could just be a bunch of high power low drops with a bunch of removal spells to back it up. But oftentimes in Sealed, there isn't so much of a strategy as these are the cards I have. I will now run them. You know, no blocks. Okay, Relic Axe isn't too bad. We'll wait on that though. I think we just run out the Rogue. Decent enough blocker on this board, and no tax. We could have also run out the Haggard Constrictor, but I think we want to hold off on that if we can. We actually get a good amount of value from the Constrictor. We could just, I mean, if they just attack him with both here, we'll probably just double block, block both, and then Blood Beckoning to get both of our creatures back. Doesn't seem too bad. Especially because one of those creatures can be a land drop. Let's see what they got. If they got some, like, good equipment or something, you know, that's going to change things, but... Shadow Stinger, which is a 1/4 rogue. Tap another rogue you control against Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player mills 3. Alright, well, yeah, we're just going to trade and trade. Sure. And then we're going to go... I think we're just going to Blood Beckoning back our creatures here. Seems like a good turn to do it. They don't have much pressure on us, and next turn we can do the Aesthetic. Gnarled Colony also gets some additional value this way. Alright, the opponent's just on, like... They must be doing a party thing. They mill us for 3. What do they hit? They got one of our removal spells, which is a little rough. Okay, well, we're going to go Turn Timber Ascetic, which dodges a good amount of removal. It gets hit by Smite the Monstrous, but it dodges Vanquish the Weak, so... Do they have the... Oh, Deadly Alliance. Yeah, so they're just straight up a full-on party deck, I guess. Mill 3 more. What do they mill? Okay, nothing too great. Here, I think we just go... We can go Haggard Constrictor plus the Rogue. It's probably better than just playing the Gnarled Colony, so yeah, I'll go Haggard Constrictor, play out the Rogue as a creature. Pass the turn. Next turn we could potentially go like Gnarled Colony plus the Relic Axe, although we don't have a warrior to slap that Relic Axe on just yet, but still probably worth just playing it out. Oh, okay. Prowling Paladar is something we definitely want to be able to kill if we can. Opponent doesn't have another rogue, so they can't make this have Death Touch. This isn't a rogue, right? No. Okay. Prowling Paladar. Yeah, that thing's gonna be a problem. Oh, okay, Haggard Mauling is pretty good. So we could Haggard Mauling plus Relic Axe, or we could just Gnarled Colony. We're probably going to have to Haggard Mauling the Prowling Paladar sooner or later. So maybe we just do it now while we've got good mana for it. I think we're just going to get Sign of the Swarm down. We can Haggard Mauling the creature next turn. We'll go ahead and get a flyer in the air so we can start pressuring our opponent, because we haven't pressured them at all this game. Attendant Healer. So whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, make a 1/1 white cat creature token. Another target cleric gains lifelink. Okay. And this healer does have lifelink now that they control a second cleric. Alright, opponent just passes the turn. Okay, so we can... I think we're actually going to hold off on the mauling again, so we're going to go to combat, attack in the air. Play Gnarled Colony for 5. And play out our Relic Axe. Next turn we can equip up with Oh, I'm an idiot. I thought this had to equip to a warrior, but it's only that it double buffs. Well, that makes me feel kind of stupid. Now, we missed a point of damage there for no real reason, but I thought when this entered the battlefield it had to attach to a target warrior we controlled. But, okay, opponent's got a Haggard Mauling too, sure. But we do have a removal spell lined up. Probably just swing in here, and if they double block, we can removal spell, like, in response. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to put this on the Gnarled Colony, get in for 5. Opponent takes it. We're fine with that, too, because that means we get to go Jiraga Visionary, draw a card, play the Swamp, switch over the Relic to, I guess, to Jiraga Visionary. Pass turn. Eventually they're going to have to try to block this Gnarled Colony. Okay, they've got a Sign of the Swarm too, and they actually got some ways to gain some life. Yeah, so they're gonna grow their Scion of the Swarm, but we do fortunately have a Hagra Mauling to deal with it. Okay, I think we switch over the Relic Axe to the Gnarled Colony. Go to combat, attack with the Gnarled Colony, see if they block. Okay, so here's our choice. We want to kill the Attendant Healer. So I think what we do is Hagra Mauling the Expedition Healer. That lets our Gnarled Colony eat their Attendant Healer. So now they have no ways to gain life on the battlefield. Then we'll pass over the Relic Axe to our Jiraga Visionary. Pass the turn. So now we've taken care of all their ways to gain life, so the Scion of the Swarm is a lot less scary. This Prowling Felidar is getting kind of scary. Demon's Disciple, sure. So, I guess we just go down the Rogue, I suppose. We do want to keep the Hagra Constrictor because it gives us menace to our Gnarled Colony. Opponent's probably just going to sack the Shadow Singer, I guess. Maybe the Disciple. Okay. Well, that does mean if we draw our pump spell, we can kill that Disciple with it, which is pretty nice. When it gets in for 3, sure. Okay, they think better of it. Hit us for 3, sure. Land's not really what we wanted to see. Well, do the old 1-2, switch it back to the Gnarled Colony. Attack with Gnarled Colony. Opponent takes 5, I'm assuming. They can't just block with one creature. They'd have to block with both. All right, and they don't. Yeah, and then we're gonna go Marasa Brute, suit up our Visionary, and pass turn. I guess we should have put this Relic Axe on our Marasa Brute because it's a warrior. Okay, now they officially can block our Gnarled Colony indefinitely. So let's see, if we put the Relic Axe on our Marasa Brute and attack with everything, what does that do for us? So opponent has to double block here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's not quite lethal. So I think we just gotta put this on our Marasa Brute and pass a turn, no attacks. Probably should have held on to that land too, in case we draw our Scythe Leopard. We're really just holding out for a Mythic here. If we can get the Lithomancy artifact or Ashaya. Ashaya would be gigantic on this board. We almost, ooh, Tabarax. Oh my god. Alright. So that's whenever a non-token creature you control dies. If it was a cleric, you may draw a card and lose life. Oh. Hello. So can I kill my opponent here? So go Scourge the Skyclaves and make my opponent lose half their life. Then they have to double block, and this will get through, and then they can block one of these, so they'll at the very least... Yeah, okay. So wow, we actually get to just kick our opponent out of the game here. And attack with everything, and that's game. Wow. So our opponent can block one of these, and can double block this with Menace, but they're still going to take more than lethal, no matter which way they block here. They don't have any lifelink. Nah, it's got Menace, my friend. Yep. Man, that's going to be lethal. Wow, okay. Scourge of the Skyclaves, getting it done as just a burn spell, basically. Not too bad. So we did draw a Mythic there. That's what we needed to close out the game. Sweet. If this turn ended, we would have untapped with a 15/15 Scourge of the Skyclaves too. Although I guess if our opponent wasn't in a position where they had to block so much, they could have potentially untapped with enough flyers to kill us, but you know, we had enough pressure on them that we were able to play this. But I mean, 15/15 for 2 mana doesn't get much better than that, and more importantly, it just drained our opponent out of the game. So sweet. Scourge of the Skyclaves has seemed pretty good. I was kind of hesitant on it when we were first starting off, but it's done some work this draft. Sweet. Alright, playing against Aramis with our Golgari deck. Hey, we got a lot of late game stuff. Man. I guess we'll keep. We're more likely to draw a land than like ever before. We have 19 lands in our deck effectively. Hello. How do I say hello? There we go. Did they move the position of hello? I think it used to be on the left here. I don't know. There it is. Alright. And we'll pass turn. Yeah, with all the half land, half spell cards, we're running 19 lands effectively, so I felt okay keeping that hand, but we'll see. So Goldraz and MacLeod can apply some pressure here. hold on to this Demon's Disciple to potentially snipe their first threat if it's something good. And we can sack our MacLeod, put a +1/+1 counter on our Demon's Disciple when it dies, although, I don't know. I don't know if it's better to have a 2/3 or a 4/2, to be honest. A 4/2 is pretty bad. Sky Sentinel, alright. Flying Defender. As long as it has a +1/+1 counter, I can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Alright, so not super great, but it is a flyer, so we probably want to get rid of it. I guess we'll attack first, because why not? Because we're going to be sacking our MacLeod. Okay. Opponent figured us out. But we're going to sack the MacLeod, put the +1/+1 counter on our Disciple, get the value out of it that we can, even though it's not exactly the best, but we're okay with that. All of these we want to play later. This is basically a 6-mana spell. Roost? What the heck is this? Okay. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, make it 2/2 whenever you cast a kick spell. Oh, dear God, that is going to be really hard to beat. I'm not sure if Flyer's even... I guess Flyer plus the Ascetic next turn puts a +1/+1 counter on it, but... Jeez, no attacks. Maybe we should have attacked there, because if they have another... They have another kicker spell here, they get to just make a Drake on top of it. Man, this is crazy. This is a crazy good card. Oh no, the ultimate blowouts. All right, Jiraga Visionary, sure. So I think, I guess we attack. It's not getting any better, right? Might as well make the trade, stem the bleeding a bit, and I guess we just go Ascetic. Pass turn, gain us some life back. We can Blood Beckoning to get a couple creatures back, so we do have a way to recover a bit. But we want to do that when we can do that plus something else on the same turn, I think. We don't want to just take a whole turn off. Okay, Umara Wizard, just a 4/3, and it gains flying, sure. Alright, so we can go... I think we're going to try to go Visionary plus Blood Priest this turn, if we can draw a land. Yes, and now we get to play the Blood Priest, drain our opponent for a good chunk. And, yeah, I mean, what else are we doing, right? We might as well attack. And we might just Blood Beckoning next turn, get back a Aesthetic plus just the 2 biggest creatures. Even though we can't cast them in the same turn, they're the most impactful stuff we've got. So maybe we just need that, because little creatures aren't going to do much when our opponent's just spitting out 2/2s for free. Taunting Arbor... Oh. Oh. Alright. Sure. Gnarlid Colony. Interesting. I guess we Gnarlid Colony. Keep applying pressure while we can. And no attacks. I don't think we Blood Beckoning just for 1 here. I think we want to do 2. It's just... We are under significant pressure with this kicker. It's just generating a ton of creatures. Let's see, as long as you control another rogue, it has Death Touch. This is a wizard. As long as you have another wizard, it has when it dies, you draw a card. So neither of these have their things turned on. And we can actually force our opponent to block with both of them against our Gnarlid, which is pretty nice. So I think that's what we do. We go Taunting Arbor Mage, Kicker, on our Gnarlid Colony, attack. Opponent has to block both. Has to block the Gnarlid Colony with both, which means we get to eat both of their creatures with our Gnarlid Colony, which is not so bad. Yeah. Hit our opponent. Pass the turn. Not going to play this Haggard's Mauling as a land. Next turn we can Blood Beckoning, start getting that set up. Sign of the Swarm plus Turn Timber Aesthetic, even though it's going to take us a few turns to deploy that, should be pretty good against this, hopefully. The life gain plus the... it'll be a 4/4 flyer, should be pretty nice. Alright, well... If they have a kicker spell, they get to just eat something. I guess we still do it, though. Attack. See, we would rather them tap out here for some kind of kicker spell than to counter our Blood Beckoning. Alright, well, I think we still have to try. If they have a counter spell, it's probably the game, but definitely have to at least try to play... our spell here. Don't do it, bro. Alright, okay, alright. Sure. Oh, dear lord. Okay. That's not good. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it gets to just cast a spell out of our graveyard. Jeez Louise. So they're gonna get back, I guess, probably just the MacLeod or maybe the Gnarled Colony. Either way, not good for us. We can kill the Zareth, the Zareth Trickster, but it kind of already did the damage. Oh, they left these back on defense, so that's something at least. Okay, so we're 1 mana short from doing 2 things this turn, but I think we just have to... I guess we'll do it on their upkeep. Anything we want to do this turn? No, I think just no tax. And on their upkeep before they draw, we will kill the Zareth. Alright. That way, if they had a counterspell, they have to use mana on their own turn. Although they had a counterspell, we're just dead anyway. But they have... Oh! Oh, no! Okay, well, good Lord Almighty. I guess we have to... I think we're just dead to flyers here. Jeez. Holy moly. No tax. Yeah, we're just dead. Oh, wow. Agadeem's Awakening. Alright, well, we lost our hard mode draft to a very, very good card. Probably the best card in the set, I'd have to say, for limited. Agadeem's Awakening is just maybe the best card in the set, even in constructed. Like, just these mythic lands are very good. And our opponent's deck was pretty awesome too. This kicker theme with Roost of Drakes and Zareth is just ridiculously strong. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we had much of a chance against this deck, to be honest, even on a good day. But yeah, unfortunately we lost our first match to Arena crashing. We'll see if we can. It's crashed after every game, to be honest. So well, okay. I guess in the final game it's not going to crash, but all right. Well, we got a couple cool cards. So let's see what we got for our prizes here. So we do get 3 prizes, and we get 1,200 gems. So about half of our entry fee back. So I mean, 3 wins and 3 losses when we didn't even have a first game isn't so bad. So I think our deck was okay. I don't think we got anything like super busted, but our opponent's last deck, that was a really cool deck. But let's open up our pack, see what we get. We get a Wayward Guide Piece. Interesting card. So it's a 1 mana 2/2 trample haste, so like the best red 1-drop ever, with the downside that when it deals combat damage to a player, you have to return a land you control to its owner's hand. So, ooh, that's a big price. But, I mean, it's a Goblin Guide, right? So, we'll see. Let's open up next pack. I kind of feel like that card might find some way to be good, but it is quite the cost. Okay, another Kargan Intimidator. Maybe we have the makings of a mono red deck here. Maybe I can put together a pretty good mono red deck, because we have 2 Intimidators now, and I have another one of those pack beasts. So, next up, we've got... Okay, Mythic Wildcard. And lastly, oh, Seagate Stormcaller, one of the cooler mythics out of the set. So basically a Snapcaster Mage, but you have to play it and then cast the spell instead of casting something out of your graveyard. So you gotta have to have a spell in hand. But I mean, just even playing this and then opting for 1 mana draws you 2 cards, scries you 2. Seems pretty good. So anyway, so our deck, I mean, it was kind of interesting. We had some interesting cards. We had the Lithiform card that we just never drew, and we had Ashaya, which we just never drew. And but the demon was pretty cool. The demon that grows, you know, it got up to a 15/15 and was able to drain our opponent out. So the mythic we did draw seemed pretty nice. And all in all, the deck was a lot of fun. The format seems pretty fun. A lot of crazy things going on. Yeah, this was my one pre-release, and it was pretty fun. I was a little sad to lose a game to Arena exploding, but something, you know, Zendikar might be rising, but it seems like Arena might be falling with this update. Like something happened. I don't know. It's not just me. It seems like everybody's having really bad problems with Arena with this update, crashing a bunch. So that's just, it is what it is. You know, I could have easily been on the other side of it and gotten a free win. Anyway, this has been 2D. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll be playing some more Zendikar real soon. See you next time.